Hey everyone, in this lesson I'm going to be going over how to create a function and how to put parameters inside that function, as well as listing different arguments of that function. Now let's go in through the basics of what a function is. Now a function is a block of code that's given a name, and you've been using functions throughout this entire course and throughout this entire JavaScript section. Now you can already think of a couple of functions you've already been using. For example, you've been using the number function over here. You've also been using the prompt function, and if you can even remember, we've been using the alert function. Now these are all built-in blocks of code that JavaScript has in its ecosystem. But sometimes there's more to that than we want, and we want to make our own custom and our own functions. Now how do we do that? Well, that's what I'm going to show you today. So let's go ahead and comment out this piece of code that I have over here, just so it doesn't bother us when we're trying to make functions. We're going to go back to it, and we're going to have and make a function using this code. But for right now, let's go ahead and comment that out just by using /* for the beginning and then */ for the end. And now let's go ahead and learn how to write a function. Now writing a function is fairly easy. All you do is you write function, and then you write the function's name. For example, I'll make the first function called write my name. And now we're going to add parentheses. Now these will act as the parameters. Now parameters will be variables that are declared at the top of the function. Now these are values, and these are going to be variables that we can use and pass information to the function when it's called. Now we'll go over that in a little bit, but don't worry about it for right now. Let's keep on working with this function. Now what's next for a function? Well, we're going to assign it a block of code, and that's usually with two curly braces, an opening curly brace and a closing curly brace. Now inside here will be our function. Now whenever we call our function, it's going to run whatever code is inside of it. For example, we call this function write my name. Let's have it write my name. So let's do a document.writeLine, which is also another function that's built inside the JavaScript ecosystem. And we're going to have it print out your name or my name, whatever one you feel most comfortable with. So I'm going to write my name, Tamer Bader. Now, whenever this function is called, so whenever we call the function write my name, it's going to go through here and it's going to access the code that's inside this function. Now it's going to automatically go and read this, and it's going to say document.writeLine Tamer Bader, and then it's going to go and write the HTML that says my name. Now how do we call this function? So we learned how to create the function. Now we actually want to call it, and that's the great thing about functions. They don't always have to run at the same exact moment you load your web page. They can sit in the background waiting until you call them to turn on. So let's go ahead and figure out how to call them. We're going to press enter here and give ourselves another line of code above it. Now the way we call a function is we write its name, the function's name. So we're going to write my name. Now we're going to add our arguments, or basically the parameters that we have in our function. Since we have nothing, we're going to leave this parentheses blank. And all we're going to do is add a semicolon, and that will call the function called write my name. So just by putting this, it's going to go ahead and look and see if there's a function called write my name. Once it finds this function name, it's going to go ahead and run that function for you. So let's go ahead and save this and see what it comes out to. Let's open up in Google Chrome. Now looking over here, let me just slide this one over here. As you can see, we're looking at some old code right here. So H1 tags, multiplication table, a table border. It's okay. So let's go ahead and delete that just so the code doesn't get confused. And as you can see, the code automatically went and wrote my name, Tamer Bader. So as you can see, since we called it right here, should I say right here, it automatically went and called itself. And now it ran the function write my name, and it went ahead and printed my name. Now let's go ahead and look at how we're going to use parameters and arguments. Now as I said before, parameters are going to be variables that are declared at the top of the function. Now we're going to be able to use these functions throughout our function, and it's going to allow us to use different types of inputs from the user, as well as different types of results that come out of our function. For example, I had the function called write my name. Now this is based on me knowing what my name is inside the code. Now let's have our user input their name and have the function print out whatever the user put in. So let's go ahead and make a variable. So we're going to call this variable name, and that will equal the prompt of the user entering in enter your name. Alright, so now we're going to add a semicolon, and now we've taken a variable and we've set it to the value of the user's input of their name. So now we have the function called WriteMyName. Now, in order to pass this variable inside to this function, we want to call this function, so WriteMyName, and we want to pass the variable name inside here. So what we're going to do is we're going to write name in here. And there we go, and now we're going to pass this variable name and the value of name inside of here. Now when we create the function, we have WriteMyName, and we want to create a parameter, and we're going to call that name as well. And then over here we want to set document.WriteLine to print out my name as well. So looking back at what we have, we created a variable called name, and that will be entering the user's input as well as entering their name. Now when we call the function, we're going to call the function by its name, and we want to pass a value through this. Now that value is going to be the user's name, which we stored in the variable called name. Now when we're writing the function, we want to make sure that the function knows that we're going to have a parameter, or we're going to have a value and a variable that's going to be running through here called name. Now this value name will be assigned the value that's over here. Now inside this document.WriteLine, we wanted to print out whatever the user gave us to the variable name, and that's by using document.WriteLine, and we're going to put the variable name inside of here. So let's go ahead and save that and run this, and let's see what happens. So open up in Google Chrome, and now it's prompting us to enter our name. So let's go ahead and say Tamer, and let's press OK. And as you can see, it printed out for us my name, and this will work for anything. So if we put Hey in here, it's going to go ahead and print Hey. So that is how you use functions and parameters. Now there's another way that we can use functions and we can call functions, and that's through attributes that we can assign to HTML. Now we can assign an attribute to HTML such as onClick. Now this will allow us to call a function based on the user clicking on a certain element inside of our HTML. Now for example, we have a heading over here that says multiplication table. Now let's say when the user clicks on multiplication table, we want it to run the function WriteMyName. So let's go ahead and delete this part right here, because we don't want it to prompt something right now. You know what, let's go ahead and do that. Let's have it prompt something. And let's delete this call of the function. Right? We want the onClick, or we want the user's click on the multiplication table to signal the function to run. Now what we're going to do is inside quotation marks for onClick, we're going to write the function's name. So we're going to write WriteMyName, and we're going to add the attributes name and close it off with a quotation mark. And that is how we signal a function to be called by using an onClick attribute inside of our HTML tags. So let's go ahead and save this. Now we have a header that when you click on it, it's going to run the function WriteMyName, and before that it's going to go ahead and create a name variable using our prompt. So now in the attributes of our function in the onClick, what we're going to do is we're going to pass the value of what the name is going to be using the variable name. So inside this WriteMyName, we're going to have it call and declare the variable name. So going over this, we have a heading that when you click on it, it'll run the function WriteMyName that's going to pass the variable name inside here. Now what does the variable name contain? It contains the prompt of the user entering their name. And then when it calls the function, it's going to call the function called WriteMyName, and the function knows that it's going to be expecting a parameter in here called name, and it's going to want to expect a value that the user has assigned. Now it's going to take that value and it's going to document.WriteLine that user's name. So let's go ahead and save this and run this over here. So now we get our prompt, enter your name. Let's go ahead and say Joe. Now nothing has printed, as you can see, because we created an onClick event. So when we click on this heading that says multiplication table, it's going to signal the function to run. So let's go ahead and click multiplication table, and there we go, it printed out the name Joe. So that is all you need to know for calling functions and creating parameters and arguments. Hope that was easy enough. If you didn't understand it, make sure to go back and look at it and pause it and try this on your own and work through a couple examples on your own. But until then, see you guys in the next one.